Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Glad you all joined me today. I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for Lesson 134 in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students from the original edition. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and to be perceived as something which entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, a complete denial of the truth. In such a view, forgiveness must be seen as merely centric folly, and this course appeared to rest salvation on a whim. This twisted view of what forgiveness means is easily corrected when you can accept the fact that pardon is not asked for what is true. It must be limited to what is false. It is irrelevant to everything except illusions. Truth is God's creation, and to pardon this is meaningless. All truth belongs to Him, reflects His laws, and radiates His love. Does this need pardon? How can you forgive the sinless and the eternally benign? The major difficulty that you find in genuine forgiveness on your part is that you still believe you must forgive the truth and not illusions. You conceive of pardon as a vain attempt to look past what is there, to overlook the truth in an unfounded effort to deceive yourself by making an illusion true. This twisted viewpoint but reflects the hold that the idea of sin retains as yet upon your mind as you regard yourself. This twisted viewpoint but reflects the hold that the idea of sin retains as yet upon your mind as you regard yourself. Because you think your sins are real, you look on pardon as deception. For it is impossible to think of sin as true and not believe forgiveness is a lie. Thus is forgiveness really but a sin, like all the rest. It says the truth is false and smiles on the corrupt as if they were as blameless as the grass, as white as snow. It is delusional in what it thinks it can accomplish. It would see as right the plainly wrong, the loathsome as the good. So when you think that what you're seeing is really truly wrong, a sin, then what you're doing is you're forgiving what's real. And that makes forgiveness not according to truth. What we want to recognize is that our brothers and sisters are they are loving and they are in love. They were created in love. And when you don't see it, what you want to forgive is that you are seeing a projection of your own error of thought manifest in your brothers and sisters. And you don't want to recognize that what you're seeing is an illusion. Can we do that? Pardon is no escape in such a view. It merely is a further sign that sin is unforgivable. At best, to be concealed, denied, or called another name. For pardon is a treachery to truth. Guilt cannot be forgiven. If you sin, your guilt is everlasting. Those who are forgiven from the view their sins are real are pitifully mocked and twice condemned. First by themselves for what they think they did, and once again by those who pardoned them. Wow. It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane. It is sin's unreality. Can you accept that? That sin is truly an unreality, and that it's only a result of our own thoughts projected outward and now coming back through our brothers and sisters, and that it's an illusion. It can seem real, but it's only because we believe and we've valued as guilt instead of believe that sin is an illusion and accept it as that. That's why we can forgive it, because it is not real. And what we're really doing is we're forgiving our perception of it, so that the guilt perception can be changed to a miraculous perception where we see that only God is real, only love is real, the atonement is real. It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to those who offer it, a quiet blessing where it is received. It does not countenance illusions, but collects them lightly with a little laugh, and gently lays them at the feet of truth, and there they disappear entirely. So we can just say that what's going on is not real, and that we laugh about this thing. It begins to be the humor of the universe, to think that we would even believe those ideas that we or our brothers and sisters could be separated from the love of God. Forgiveness is the only thing that stands for truth in the illusions of the world. Now, let's go back and read 6 again. It is sin's unreality that makes forgiveness natural and wholly sane, a deep relief to those who offer it, a quiet blessing where it is received. It does not countenance illusions, but collects them lightly with a little laugh, and gently lays them at the feet of truth, and there they disappear entirely. Forgiveness is the only thing that stands for truth in the illusions of the world. It sees their nothingness and looks right through the 1,000 forms in which they may appear. It looks on lies, but is not deceived. It does not heed the self-accusing shrieks of sinners mad with guilt. It looks on them with quiet eyes and merely says to them, "My brother, what you think is not the truth." And you may not want to say that out loud. It might only make matters worse. But in some cases, it might be the perfect words to say. But internally, you can say, "My brother, what you think is not the truth." Because I know that only love is real, and I'm totally fixed on that one reality, and it's everything else is a manifestation of my own guilt consciousness that I'm learning to let go of by the practice of forgiveness. The strength of pardon is its honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it sees illusions as illusions, not as truth. It is because of this that it becomes the undeceiver in the face of lies, the great restorer of the simple truth. By its ability to overlook what is not there, it opens up the way to truth, which had been blocked by dreams of guilt. Now are you free to follow in the way your true forgiveness opens up to you. For if one brother has received this gift of you, the door is open to yourself. There's a very simple way to find the door to true forgiveness and perceive it open wide and welcome. When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did, for this is self-deception. Ask instead, should I accuse myself of doing this? Remember, what you see in your brother is what you've sent out. You're the maker of your world. And if you think that you see sin, remember its inception came from your thought. And they just played out what they were allowed to play out because of your sending out of guilt thoughts. So we're going to now practice forgiveness and see the whole world change. Thus will you see, and so instead of dwelling on the thing that you want to accuse them of, ask instead, should I accuse myself of doing this? Thus will you see alternatives for choice in terms which render choosing meaningful, and keep your mind as free of guilt and pain as God Himself intended it to be, and as it is in truth. It is but lies which would condemn. In truth is innocence the only thing there is. Forgiveness stands between illusions and the truth, between the world you see and that which lies beyond, between the hell of guilt and heaven's gate. Across this bridge, as powerful as love, which laid its blessing on it, are all dreams of evil and of hatred and attack brought silently to truth. They are not kept to swell and bluster and to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them. He has been gently wakened from his dream by understanding what he thought he saw was never there. And now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him. Can we get to that place where we actually remind ourselves or hear the Holy Spirit tell us that he has been gently wakened from his dream by understanding what he thought he saw was never there, and now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him. He does not have to fight to save himself. He does not have to kill the dragons which he thought pursued him, nor need he erect the heavy walls of stone and iron doors he thought would make him safe. He can remove the ponderous and useless armor made to chain his mind to fear and misery. His step is light, and as he lifts his foot to stride ahead, a star is left behind to point the way to those who follow him. Forgiveness must be practiced, for the world cannot perceive its meaning nor provide a guide to teach you its beneficence. There is no thought in all the world which leads to any understanding of the laws it follows, nor the thought which it reflects. It is as alien to the world as is your own reality, and yet it joins your mind with the reality in you. Today we practice true forgiveness, that the time of joining be no more delayed. Remember, we're going to start seeing ourselves and our brothers and sisters, and that's the time of joining, he calls that. When we recognize that we can see ourselves and our brothers and sisters, so you don't want to condemn them, which would be further deception, thinking they really sinned against you. Instead, recognize that you've made everything and that we're joined as holy with your brother as you are with yourself, and that only God and only love is real. Okay? Today we practice true forgiveness, that the time of joining be no more delayed, for we would meet with our reality in freedom and in peace. Our practicing becomes the footsteps, lightening up the way for all our brothers who will follow us to the reality we share with them. That this may be accomplished, let us give a quarter of an hour twice today and spend it with the guide who understands the meaning of forgiveness and was sent to us to teach it. Let us ask of him, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. So we're going to enter into our 2 quarter of an hour meditations with this idea, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Then choose one brother as he will direct and catalog his sins as one by one they cross your mind. Be certain not to dwell on any one of them, but realize that you are using his offenses, but to save the world from all ideas of sin. Briefly consider all the evil things you thought of him, and each time ask yourself, would I condemn myself for doing this? Because remember, what you're seeing is really your own thoughts on him, and him acting out what you in a vibrational way allowed him to act out towards you. Can we say it that way? Then you sent out the feelings of guilt, and things were set up to where he was able to be brought to you to do something that caused you to think that he had sinned against you. And the old way we forgave is we would forgive. We're nice, but we're going to overlook it. It was really happening, but we're going to overlook it. The new way that Jesus is teaching us, though, is that it never happened. It's only your own thoughts projected outward coming back to you through your brothers and sisters. And that's what you need to forgive. Forgive the illusion. And do it by saying, would I condemn myself for doing this? Of course I wouldn't want to condemn anybody, and myself included. Because that only separates us from the oneness of God, our time of joining, he calls it. Let him be freed from all the thoughts you had of sin in him, and now you are prepared for freedom. If you've been practicing thus far in willingness and honesty, you will begin to sense a lifting up, a lightening of weight across your chest. Wow, a lightening of weight. You're going to feel lifted up, and a lightening of weight across your chest, a deep and certain feeling of relief. The time remaining should be given to experiencing the escape from all the heavy chains you sought to lay upon your brother, which were laid upon yourself. Forgiveness should be practiced through the day, for there will be so many times when you forget its meaning and attack yourself. Remember, when you're attacking your brother for their sins, you're really attacking yourself. You're going to have lots of opportunities, he says, because we're so used to not using forgiveness in this way. When this occurs, allow your mind to see this illusion as you tell yourself. Let's go back up, 19. Forgiveness should be practiced through the day, for there will be so many times when you forget its meaning and attack yourself. When this occurs, allow your mind to see through this illusion as you tell yourself. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Should I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. Remember, when you lay a chain on your brother, you're laying it on yourself. When you condemn your brother, you're condemning yourself. In everything you do, remember this. No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. Wow, we're all in this together, aren't we? No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. You're going to have to see the good in your brothers and sisters, because remember, that's just the holiness of God shining through you to them, back to you, and you onto them, leaving a star behind as you walk. Okay, let's go take a look in our text reading. I need do nothing. I need do nothing. This is just such a wonderful text reading. He's going to talk about how it's in our holy relationships that we make so much advance. That we can learn a lot in being a cave yogi, sitting quietly and not saying anything for years on end, or months, however long it takes, depending on where you're at and how much you need to look through. But he says there's a faster way, and it's in our relationships with our brothers and sisters. And that's what we're working with today. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. I will not say, should I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. Well, we're going to enter heaven with our brothers and sisters. That's our way. Our teacher, the master of love, Jesus, he gave us that message 2,000 years ago. Love your neighbor as yourself, and love God with all your heart, mind, strength, and all your might, all your soul, mind, body, with everything. Love God. Well, you love God by loving your brothers and your sisters. How can you say, James said, how can you say you love God whom you have not seen if you can't love your brothers whom you have seen? And now he's given us some really good ways on how to love them. And we start realizing that whatever we see in them is really what we're seeing in ourselves, okay? Try to get that message. Okay, I need do nothing. Before we read that, let me just take a minute and tell you about a Seed Saver Exchange tomato called Isis Candy Cherry. It's an Isis Candy Cherry. The gorgeous bicolored cherry tomatoes of this variety are red with a spectacular cat's eye starbust on the blossom end of each fruit. Plants are loaded with 1.5-inch fruits in clusters of 6 to 8, with each tomato having a rich, sweet, fruity flavor. Bred by Joe Brotka of New Jersey, intermediate, 70 to 80 days from transplant. And you're probably looking at another 30 days, from seed to ready to transplant. So you're looking about 110 day from the time you get them started and in seed until the time they're ready. And are they an indeterminate? Yes, indeterminate. Okay. I need do nothing. Chapter 18, The Dream and the Reality, Section 8. You still have too much faith in the body as a source of strength. What plans do you make that do not involve its comfort or protection or enjoyment in some way? This makes it an end and not a means in your interpretation, and this always means you still find sin attractive. No one accepts atonement for himself who still accepts sin as his goal. You have thus not met your one responsibility. Atonement is not welcomed by those who prefer pain and destruction. You have made such progress. You have made much progress and are really trying to make still more. But there is one thing you have never done. Not for one instant have you utterly forgotten the body. It has failed at times. It has faded from times from your sight, but it has not yet completely disappeared. You are not asked to let this happen for more than an instant, yet it is in this instant that the miracle of atonement happens. Afterwards you will see the body again, but never quite the same. And every instant that you spend without awareness of it gives you a different view of it when you return. At no single instant does the body exist at all. At no single instant does the body exist at all. It is always remembered or anticipated, but never experienced just now. Only its past and future make it seem real. Time controls it entirely, for sin is never present. In any single instant, the attraction of guilt would be experienced as pain and nothing else, and would be avoided. It has no attraction now. Its whole attraction is imaginary, and therefore must be, its whole attraction is imaginary, and therefore must be thought of in the past or in the future. Paragraph 66. It is impossible to accept the holy instant without reservation unless just for an instant you're willing to see no past or future. It is impossible to accept the holy instant without reservation unless just for an instant you're willing to see no past or future. Just for an instant, he says. You cannot prepare for it without placing it in the future. Release is given you the instant you desire it. Many have spent a lifetime in preparation and have indeed achieved their instance of success. This course does not attempt to teach more than they learned in time, but it does aim at saving time. So if you spend, in Kriya Yoga, we talk about how that 1 year of natural evolution can be accomplished in 1 year of Kriya Yoga meditation, the internal breathing with the movement of the might call it the Kundalini energy from the spine to the higher chakras of the head, and breathing up and down with the focus on the internal pathway of light in the spinal cord. Well, that's an incredible method for awakening. But look what Jesus is saying, regardless of the whatever type of cave yogi or mindfulness you're doing. He says that there's another way here that he wants us to be really proficient at. Not that he doesn't necessarily want us to do the others also. We should be quite proficient at going into the silence. But he doesn't require long periods of that. He wants us to be busy about our Father's business, loving our neighbors as ourselves. Okay? Many have spent a lifetime in preparation and have indeed achieved their instance of success. This course does not attempt to teach more than they learned in time, but it does aim at saving time. You are attempting to follow a very long road to the goal you have accepted. It is extremely difficult to reach atonement by fighting against sin. Enormous effort is expended in the attempt to make holy what is hated and despised. Nor is a lifetime of contemplation and long periods of meditation aimed at detachment from the body necessary. All such attempts will ultimately succeed because of their purpose. You want holiness, you'll get it. Yet the means are tedious and very time-consuming, for all of them look to the future for release from a state of present unworthiness and inadequacy. In the last paragraph we're going to read today, 67, your way will be different, not in purpose, but in means. A holy relationship is a means of saving time. So he wants us to become really good at having a holy relationship, which is to accept our brothers as God and actually experience that holy instant and the oneness we have if we join with our brothers and sisters as we learn really well on how to practice forgiveness. That's our way. Our lesson for today, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Your way will be different, not in purpose, but in means. A holy relationship is a means of saving time. One instant spent together restores the universe to both of you. You are prepared. Now you need but to remember you need do nothing. It would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this than to consider what you should do. You need do nothing. He says, it would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this, that I need do nothing, than to consider what you should do. When peace comes at last to those who wrestle with temptation and fight against the giving in to sin, when the light comes at last into the mind given to contemplation, or when the goal is finally achieved by anyone, it always comes with just one happy realization. I need do nothing. So we're going to skip right to the end and start practicing it. I need do nothing. So let's be really good at that today and make it a part of your life to rest in the Holy Spirit and not think you have to do anything. Line up your thoughts. I mean, maybe I should just leave it at that. The Holy Spirit will teach us, won't He? It's such a wonderful lesson today that goes along with our text reading. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Should I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. So if you see some sin in brothers or sisters, realize you don't want to condemn yourself for that. So don't condemn them, because you are one. No one is crucified alone, and yet no one can enter heaven by himself. We're all in this together, and we must see ourselves in each other and see God in each other, see love in each other. All right, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Should I accuse myself of doing this? I will not lay this chain upon myself. In everything you do, remember this. No one is crucified alone, and no one can enter heaven by himself. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is.